What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It is I, your Morphinominal host, Adam Perez, back once again for another Zenkaiger review as we're going to go ahead and get into episode number 38, the brand new episode that just dropped earlier this week as we played a little bit of a catch-up here to go ahead and make sure that we're caught up to the current Super Sentai series, trying to be back on time with a little bit of everything. Now that I think we're coming into a little bit of a schedule with Little Man, I mean, don't get me wrong, things will always happen unexpectedly. She may have to go out to do something. I may have to certainly go ahead and do something, but we're certainly doing our best. So thank you very much for you guys' continued patience and understanding when it comes to the content here on the channel for the next couple of months. But here we are, Zenkaiger episode number 38, and I gotta be honest, I'm really glad I caught up to this season so far. I thought this was a phenomenal episode. I really had a lot of fun with it. There was just something really special about the opportunity to kind of see ancestors brought back from the past and really kind of see how it affects certain individuals throughout this particular episode. Some certainly more than others, but all impactful to certainly say the least. And I definitely want to go ahead and talk with you guys about it. But remember, as always, these are just simply my A+ opinions. At the end of the day, I want to know yours though. So what did you guys think of the current episode of Zenkaiger episode number 38? Let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below, guys. So let's go ahead and dive into it, right? We wind up getting two villains here this week, if you will, with Bond World along with New Year's Eve World, if I'm not mistaken. I love the fact that they both kind of jump into this episode together, and you quickly come to find out that one is actually Ijiru's monster and the other one is Barashitaru's monster. And if we know anything about Barashitaru and Ijiru, it feels like a weird combination, right? Like a part of me was thinking to myself, do they know that they sent monsters down together and that they're trying to work together all at the same time? But we quickly come to see that maybe the teamwork doesn't necessarily work out, right? The idea that they both throw attacks at the Zenkaigers, but they kind of like just bump into each other and sort of cancel each other out before they even get to its mark, if you will. So I thought it was pretty cool that New Year World at least sort of took a back seat. It seems as though we're going to get him to next week's episode, but Bond World here did his thing and wind up bringing ancestors back, and then by the end of the episode we see that he kind of flips the switch and turns all those ancestors against their family members, if you will. So pretty interesting stuff, to be perfectly honest. So let's go ahead and dive into at least the three ancestors that really certainly got some shine in here. For me, we definitely got the opportunity to see Juran's great-grandfather return, if I'm not mistaken. I love the fact that he continued to get Juran's name incorrect, but I do love getting the opportunity to see the old man, like the design for him, getting to see that, yes, he very much is a Kikainoid also, but he's gotten a gray hairs all over the place, even has like a little gray-haired knot to kind of go along with it. Old man Juran is certainly what it's something kind of reminded me of. So I thought it was pretty cool that even the fact that they are robots, they do have like a family lineage and things like that. And speaking of lineages, when it comes to like generations of Kikainoids, I did find it rather fascinating that Juran's father explains that even during his time, the Tojitendo was certainly in power, right? I think that really gives us a much better understanding of how long the Tojitendo have certainly been around, and really how long they've certainly been up to their antics and really kind of controlling vast different worlds across dimensions over this time. So I did think that that was rather interesting, and one of the things that I think it made really impactful for Juran was that understanding the importance of taking down the Tojitendo, right? Like when you have an empire that's empowered, that's been holding people down for not just a brief moment in time, but through several generations, I think that puts a little bit more weight on Juran's shoulders in understanding the importance of taking down the Tojitendo, right? Like if it's something that the Kikainoids have been struggling with, have been oppressed against for so many years, the fact alone that it comes down to Juran along with a handful of Kikainoids and one human to take down this empire and their reign. I mean, you look at it in the scope of what it can do for the future of the Kikainoids and truly how impactful it could truly have on the future, certainly going forward. So I thought that was pretty cool. You know, not that I expect to see Juran having any kids anytime soon sort of thing, but when you see that the Kikainoids themselves have really been hindered and oppressed for such a long time, the idea of that finally coming to an end is pretty impactful, not just for the current generation, but generations past that couldn't take them down, and for future generations that certainly don't have to worry about them and really live in sort of a brand new world, if you will. So I really did enjoy that sort of enlightenment that we wind up getting, and then of course the comedy aspect of seeing these two sort of interact, even when great grandpa certainly turns evil, just seeing how he was interfering with everything, trying to hit him with his cane. I even loved like during the roll call where we got Juran trying to perform his roll call, announce who he is. You got this old man sort of butting in the way, getting in front of him and stuff like that. So I really did appreciate the humor that Juran's great grandfather brought to this episode, especially when they finally do their pose at the end and you get to see that he's actually stepping on Zenkaiser's toes. I thought it was pretty hilarious, to say the least. So I thought this was a great episode in regards to just the humor aspect and just the eye-opening aspect that the ancestors really brought with them. The second one, though, I definitely want to go ahead and talk a little bit about is, in fact, Zox's great-grandfather, or maybe it was his grandfather. I can't quite recall. But for me, when it comes to this interaction, it's funny to me. It laughed because it made me think, oh, how the tables have certainly turned, right? Like the idea that Zox has to now kind of experience the idea of what it means to have a pirate in your life, very much like how Kaido certainly had to deal with it, right? And then realizing, man, I got to kind of reel this guy in a little bit. Just getting the opportunity to see Zox, seeing just how raw and hardcore, his own family members certainly used to be, like legit pirates. And it did make me laugh too, because of the idea that even for somebody like myself that grew up in the 80s and the 90s and things like that, one of the things that I think that generation of people will say about the current generation is like how soft people have become, right? Like how thin-skinned they certainly have become, where everything certainly seems to offend them sort of mentality. So there was a sense where I felt very much like the old pirate, and then Zox like the new current generation where things are a little bit softer. So it was really fun to kind of see just how different but yet the same they were, right? Like the idea that I'm sure Zox, despite the fact that they really got into it, I'm sure there are definitely elements of his grandfather that he can certainly see within himself, right? Like that pirate mentality is certainly there, but maybe for Zox it's a little bit more watered down because of the fact that he's had to make that deal with Kaido and certainly has sort of a brand new perspective. I mean, Grandpa was literally trying to pillar and plunge whatever he can certainly find and take for his own, very much the pirate mentality, if you will. But I do love that. I mean, damn, the homeboy literally even like kicked or punched Flint to the ground, put his boot on her and things like that, right? Like just very much that classic pirate mentality. And I did love seeing Zox sort of flip the switch and be like, look, old man, I know we're not your generation of old, but look how powerful I certainly am, right? And the fact that he transforms, beats his grandfather's ass, if you will, and then Flint's even like, yeah, that's the power of the current day gold tweaker grandpa sort of mentality, right? Like just kind of telling the old man a thing or two to kind of shape him up and tell him what the current generation is certainly like. So for me, I had a lot of fun with that one too, just because of the fact that we've seen what Zox is capable of when he's in his full pirate mode, and now that he's pulled it back a little bit, him now having to sort of deal with somebody very similar to him, just even a little bit more raw, that certainly came before him kind of mentality. Like the fact that he was like, even when he tries to escape, and you see grandfather even using his anchor, even hitting him with the yo-ho-hoy sort of slogan that Zox is so certainly known for. The fact that he was already getting under Zox's skin. I laughed and just thought to myself, it's just great to see the tables turned a little bit and have Zox experience that for himself every once in a while. So I thought that was pretty cool. But the one that really stood out to me, guys, clearly had to be the idea of Stacey and his mom certainly coming back. For some reason in my head right now, I want to sing Stacey's mom has got it going on. Like, I don't know why. Anytime I say Stacey's mom, that's the song that certainly pops into my head. But I honestly loved seeing her in here because I think as viewers who have watched this season so far, we know exactly the impact that his mom certainly has had on him, right? The fact that we've been seeing him have flashbacks of remembering her voice, remembering her smile, making connections of his own mom to the sweetness that is Yuchan and things like that, feeling terrible that she's been dead or that she died a long time ago, that his father Barashitar probably threw her in a ditch somewhere, right? So the idea of not having his mom has been super impactful on Stacey's life. So to see him finally coming face to face with her, despite the fact that she certainly may be a ghost, it's a ghost that definitely has all the memories, right? Talks about how sweet he was as a young little boy, things that she certainly remembers, right? Putting down Barashitar in the sense that, this is probably all a Barashitar theme, and maybe not wanting him to certainly be influenced by his father so much, right? Really sort of tapping into that kind, kindred spirit that certainly is Stacey, and really putting him in an interesting predicament, and finding himself truly caring about this woman and making connections to his mom when she certainly was alive. Despite that he looks at her as a fake, the fact that this particular fake, as he calls her, has her face and her voice, it's really hard for him certainly not to get emotional. And so for me, it was really great to kind of see him finally get that opportunity to talk with her or see her again. I kind of wish that maybe he took some time out of this episode. Like, I do feel like maybe there's a little bit of a missed opportunity for him to maybe express his feelings to her a little bit more, right? Like, even though I know he's internally struggling with it, I would have liked to have seen him maybe open up his mouth just a little bit more. I mean, the fact that he alone stood up to his own father because of her, his actions when he took her back to the Tojitendo, saying, go ahead and get rid of this fake sort of thing. And Barashitar just kind of blew him off in a sense like, hey, it'll go away when Bond World is destroyed, and you better not be the one to do it, because that's just a traitorous ass move to overload Bokawas, and nobody would certainly be happy. So you kind of have to live with it, kid, right? But I think for me, the chills that I got from Barashitar in here that continue to showcase, like, this dude's a fucking asshole, if you ask me. Like, the idea that he has the nerve to mention, I've had wives all around the universe or the galaxy before, but I've never been with a ghost. And then he goes to put his arm onto her shoulder, like, get your hands off this woman, you nasty freak. Like, the fact that he's like even thinking about connecting with this ghost in some sort of way, like, let's talk about super disrespectful. And I love the fact that, like, that was it for Stacey, right? Like, Stacey's like, no, get your hands off of her, we're certainly getting out of here. Being protective of his mom, as every son certainly should be when it comes to having a deadbeat father. So I kind of really enjoyed seeing Stacey step up to his mom that way. But it is when the roles are reversed, or the flip is switched, or the switch is flipped, when the switch is flipped and she turns evil, right? And she starts kind of attacking him, and then he's got to look at the face of his mom, who's out certainly trying to kill him, right? And I love the fact that this winds up bringing Kaido and Stacey just a little bit closer together, right? Kaido coming in last minute to go ahead and protect Stacey from getting stabbed by his own mom. And I love the fact that it really puts into perspective for Stacey, what is it that I'm doing, right? Like, I'm sort of becoming kind of like my own father. And I'm glad that he makes that connection of being able to see his own family member's face that he's missed for such a long time and connecting to it, but yet at the same time now having that face fight against you. And he compares that situation to what Kaido and Hakaiser is going through, right? The fact that Kaido has now seen his father's face, know that his father is still in there, brainwashed, but still very much possibly the same man, right? So same thing that Stacey just went through and seeing his mom again after thinking she was gone and dead for such a long time. And then having to fight against her or have her push back sort of thing. The same thing with Hakaiser when he is brainwashed and fighting, and we see Kaido really struggling to fight Hakaiser yet still get his father back sort of mentality. I love that he's mature enough at least to see he's kind of doing the same thing, right? Putting Hakaiser out there and then taking Hakaiser away, even though he clearly has that attachment to Hakaiser, feels like this is my first sort of friend, somebody that truly cares. He's truly not yours, Stacey, right? He is Kaido's family, and yet you continue to keep him away or allow him to fight as this person that he's certainly not. And that's the same move that Barashitara certainly did in here too. So some really eye-opening things. It does make me wonder if this is the episode where Stacey truly puts his foot down and realizes all the evil and negative actions that he certainly has. And if, since I mentioned the idea of him being traitorous, if he were to take down some of the monsters, I am wondering if this is the point where Stacey just says F it, you know, and maybe starts doing things on his own. Maybe he starts helping out Kaido, trying to get Hakaiser back as his father sort of mentality, and really kind of sticks it to the Tojitendo. So I'm hoping this is the moment that's eye-opening enough, considering the fact that he got the opportunity to see his mom again. She turned on him, and now is never going to get the opportunity to see her again, and knows what that pain feels like. So I'm hoping this was a monumental moment in regards to Stacey's mentality and his story arc certainly going forward. But great stuff, man. Really great. And I just want to make a quick honorable mention to Kaido in here. You know, the fact that, again, showcasing the idea of how selfless that he certainly is. You know, even though Juran is having a good time with his grandfather and things like that, Kaido's mind continues to be on Stacey, understanding what Stacey's sort of mentality and headspace is, worried and concerned about him during this entire time. Even when the ancestors were acting pretty normal, right? He knows that the idea of seeing his mom is going to take a toll on him, and Kaido continues to be worried about him. Worried enough so that when they do turn, he's out there to certainly go ahead and protect him and be there for him. And I think, again, I'm hoping that this is another moment for Stacey, for him to realize that Kaido is always thinking about him, always concerned about him, and starts putting his best foot forward to maybe return the favor when it comes to Kaido. So again, I think they've done an incredible job with the Kaido character. One of the reasons why, even though I may not necessarily, this is a very love-hate relationship I have with Zenkaiger, one of the strong points is Zenkaiser himself in Kaido. So I love the fact that they continue to show his selflessness and how much he truly does care for others before himself, sort of thing. And then, of course, the last honorable mention, the idea that Overlord Bokawas has a plan for Hakaiser that I'm not quite sure is going to end very happily for Kaido. I certainly hope that it does, as we see Overlord Bokawas handing Ichirud what looks to be some sort of dagger or knife. I can't really tell what the design is or what it's meant for, but it's definitely go ahead and use on Hakaiser enough to really chill Ichirud down to his spare parts. I mean, the idea that homeboy literally drops his trident, is trembling in his boots at the idea of what Bokawas is holding in his hand. It feels like a knife. It feels like a dagger when I look at it. Initially, that's where my mind goes, but I'm curious if it's something else or if it's utilized differently as the season progresses. But we'll see what happens, guys. We'll see what happens. But I thought this episode was excellent. Really looking forward to the next one as they continue to celebrate New Year's. Well, I think they meant to celebrate Christmas in here because they pulled the Christmas tree out, which reminds me, I got to go ahead and get the Christmas tree up this week and start putting out some decorations if I can. So we are getting into sort of that holiday spirit. And I didn't know too much about sort of the Bon festival that Japan certainly has, where they really do sort of celebrate their ancestors and things like that, which I think would be pretty cool to kind of see them maybe come back for one day to kind of speak with their ancestors. Maybe not necessarily have to fight them, but definitely to see them once again. So I think that's a pretty cool festival and little holiday that they certainly celebrate over in Japan, but very much so meant to be a Christmas and New Year's episode sort of back to back. And Kaido's birthday, I believe, is December 12th. So come December 12th, we definitely have a little birthday celebration for Kaido to certainly enjoy, to certainly say the least. But look, guys, other than that, those are simply my thoughts. At the end of the day, though, I want to know yours. What did you think about episode number 38? Let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below. If I had to grade this episode, hell, I'm going to give it an A+. I had a lot of fun with it, honestly. You know, there probably could have been a lot more action and things like that, but I think for what they delivered, I had a really great time with this episode. So maybe an A, maybe an A+, but that's just how it personally hit me. I would be curious to know your guys' thoughts. But until then, guys, I think that's going to be it, but we'll definitely be back next week with a brand new Zenkaiger review, so certainly look out for that. Feel free to certainly join us this upcoming Saturday as we go live at noon Central Time for a new episode of A+ Morphinominal. But until then, guys, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Full throttle, nonstop. Have a good one, guys. Bye.